And by bankers, I don't think you're talking about the Main Street community bankers. You're talking about the big globalist bankers.
I'm talking about the Jacob Schiff, the
Yeah.
Evelyn Rothschilds, the Rockefellers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The mortgage.
That's not the little corner bank on Main Street that's got your checking account. It's the guys
That's right.
that are pulling the puppet strings.
That's right. Matter of fact, one of my very good friends is Charles Collins, who was a banker. He was a banker there in Georgia.
I spent about a dozen years running a little community bank here in Colorado. I have great admiration for those, but you don't even have to be kind of in the system to understand that what this latest financial reform, so-called, that Chris Dodd and Barney Frank and Barack Obama pushed through, is going to push those hometown banks right out of business. They want a nationalized banking system of which they can control. Whether the government owns it all, as they do the Federal Reserve, or not, will matter very little if they can regulate it and control it through regulation. And that's where they're moving to. They're moving to a massive consolidation of the bigs and an elimination of the locally owned and operated neighborhood and community banking system.
Now, for 2,000 years, the Bible has told us, not to take the mark of the beast, beware the mark of the beast. But for 2,000 years, we kept kind of scratching our head and wondering what that was. My friend Aaron Russo, filmmaker, had a conversation with Nicholas Rockefeller, and Nicholas Rockefeller said their plan was to move everybody into a one world currency and have the currency as electronic currency, and you can access your account by a little RFID chip in your hand. And no sooner did I put that up, I saw commercials come on the television for HealthLink. Kind of nice timing when Obama was pushing his new health care bill, and I'll get your comments on that in a moment. But when he was pushing that, all of a sudden you got these commercials on. George used to forget his medications. Now we've got this little chip, and it tells you. What they're not telling you is that chip will also access your bank account, that the government can go in, they can put your Social Security right into your bank account, but then they can come in and take it back out again as we're just covering your insurance.
Well, Clay, I had no idea of that news that you just cited, but it doesn't completely shock me. Off the air, you and I talked about the fact that I was a rancher. We got buffalo, and years before that I was in the dairy business, and RFID in the livestock industry has been around for a long, long while. You put a little chip either in an ear tag, or some of them would implant them subcutaneously, and you could identify and manage the animals. Okay, so it is not a very big leap to think, well, heck, we could use these in humans as well. The government, and especially this government, you can read every single day of what one agency or the other is doing. If you think a little bit, you just realize how appalling it is, and how it is moving us ever closer to not only one massive, uncontrollable, intrusive federal government in the U.S., but as you pointed out, a one world order. When they can start tracking us with a little microchip, and the technology certainly exists, and you watch the people that would line up voluntarily so that they'll, gee, if you forgot your driver's license, no problem, we've got RFID implanted in you. If you got to get through the airport, no problem, we got RFID. Well, sure, I want one of those. And you watch like sheep how they would line up behind some kind of a dopey system like that without ever realizing how much freedom they've just forfeited.
Yes, sir. 10 years ago, about 8, I guess, I was in Walmart up in Ruidoso, New Mexico. I'm sorry, Alamogordo, New Mexico. And a German soldier came in and bought some stuff in front of me. And he just waved his hand over their little scanner and paid for his purchases.
Yeah.
So it's been around for a long time. Now,
Well, you know what we're living. Whether you call it Atlas Shrugged or whether even more contemporary, the Left Behind series. I don't know if you read it or not. But we're living through what one short while ago was fantasy, Orwell's 1984, and it is among us. And if you know, a lot of people think that we're kind of out there, that we're on the fringe for even talking like this, but the real failure is to not recognize the reality that's around you.
That's right. And you mentioned Atlas Shrugged. One of my favorite quotes here is from Ayn Rand. She said, "The government has no control over honest citizens, so they have to make criminals out of us." And
Yeah.
in my opinion, they've been doing that to us since 1939, when they stole our number one cash crop, sent it over to Russia, sent it over to Red China, sent it to Canada, and had the contraband coming in from Mexico. Hemp. They took hemp out. They made it. They certainly started calling the most useful product on the plant on Earth. They started calling it marijuana, and they made criminals out of millions of Americans. 1 in every 31 Americans is in prison, on parole, or on probation right now for something. They made a criminal out of it. They made criminals out of our grandfathers by they're bootleggers, they're moonshiners. No, they're running their Model Ts on alcohol. We got prohibition, and then Kennedy got rich, Brofman got rich, and suddenly there was a Standard Oil station on every corner in every town across America.
That's right. That's right. Now, if you're a good enough criminal, you can get a cabinet job, or you can be chairman of Ways and Means.
Yeah, yeah.
You get your finger on the pulse of it, and what I think I guess maybe if trying to look at it through rose-colored glasses, maybe we're a patient lot, but at some point you've got to realize that the freedom that the founding fathers sacrificed absolutely everything for. You know, the John Hancocks, the George Washingtons, they gave everything for. We have let that go, and today that freedom is being assaulted at a speed with rapidity and in such
kind of how dare you glorify these rebels, these they were rebels, they were criminals, weren't they? They were growing hemp. My God, they could have been nice guys. They had slaves.
They were I think well, I won't defame some other good people around the world, but these were among, at least, the very best and certainly the most enlightened, freedom-loving, God-loving, honest people, people that really believed in the value and the goodness of human beings to do the right thing. They were, you want true revolutionaries, the first ones to ever really believe that people could govern themselves, that they didn't need an anointed king or a dictator to tell them what to do. And we have allowed, ever since, for over 200 years now, we have allowed those freedoms that they fought for, and the system that they designed for us to preserve and protect those freedoms, we've allowed that to be eroded to the point where the Jeffersons and the Madisons and the Monroes and the Hancocks and the Franklins, they must be turning over in their graves at the sight of what has happened to the America that they gave so much for. I hope we can get back, Clay. I hope we can return to at least some of those principles. I see signs. I know that there is a group of members of Congress right now, led by a friend of mine, a guy named Rob Bishop from Utah, that is focusing on a return to the 10th Amendment. He's formed the 10th Amendment caucus, returning the rights that the Constitution granted back to the states, to the local folks. When at least we've got folks talking about that. But when you've got an Attorney General like Eric Holder, who seems to be more concerned out the enemies of America instead of protecting the Constitution.